Well, we're back together again. For those of you who have been following the various topics we're dealing with, and one of the ways that I'm moving forward is to try to get very practical to where you and I are today and every day. Um, and the thing I want to talk about today is something that, if you're a young generation under 30, you may not even know anything about this, but then maybe you were one of those that did it. Um, my analogy is that you remember when in the old days, maybe your parents spanked you, or maybe you still spank your children some, even though it's considered abuse now, that you could spank a child for doing something, and the child would turn around in a very defiant look and say, "That don't hurt. That didn't hurt." While the tears roll down their face and say, "Oh, but it did." Well, my analogy is to introduce that we as adults are much like children. Because the more than 4 decades that I have worked with people, there's many of us still that are hurting inside, and we are sometimes like a child. We're so desperately hurting inside, but to the world outside and to our family, friends, and spouse, we're saying, "I'm okay, that didn't hurt." But our life is falling apart. I can't begin to tell you how many wives, especially, I talk to that are caught in this endless cycle called life of raising children, taking care of them when they come home, seeing to it that they are all prepared for the next day, dealing with the husband, getting him ready. He's gone. He comes home. Many times the husband just watches television, does the exercise on his fingers. Very rarely do you find a husband who really pitches in and helps with the family. And the parent, the mother begins to wear out, and she's hurting from perhaps relationship issues with him because he's doing this with the kids and he's off with his buddies and who knows what, and maybe she's doing this and that, and what little relationship there was, if there was any, is eroding or gone. Now, uh, what we do is, much like a child, we say, "Well, I'm not hurting." And we stand up and we get hard and maybe rigid, and we just kind of live for the children, we are told. And then what that does is, when the children begin to be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, they begin to move on out into the school and replace the parents to a large degree with peers, and they're going here and going there, and all of a sudden you don't know each other as husband and wife, if you ever did have a relationship. The material I'm talking about, and I'm going to keep introducing this because you really need to get this book, Programming a Child to Self-Destruct, by myself at Amazon. It talks about not only how we're programming our children when we send them to the room to watch videos, we're training them and reprogramming their mind to be defiant, to feel unloved and rejected. But this word rejection is huge in your and my life. But we're also doing very destructive things by giving them everything, taking them everywhere. We're being busy, but the child doesn't learn any unity in the family. And when that child grows up to become a you or me, they reproduce as a Genesis seed teaching in Genesis 1, 2, and 3, their own kind. And the children are either smothered with material things because we didn't have any, or we are keeping them busy because we're so worn out by the time we work, we come home, we cook, we prepare. We just want them to get out of our hair for a while. And we send them to the room and tell them just do whatever they do. And we don't monitor the videos. We have no idea what's going on. Well, I've done a lot of in-depth research, and I've worked with some European trainers in mind brainwashing, and I'm here to tell you that we Americans are programming our children to do exactly what you're seeing them do in the Columbine killings and the school shootings and the burning up the houses and the drug epidemic among young people. We have to take responsibility for a lot of that. So get the book so you can understand it. You get an intelligent understanding. A lot of research material is quoted in here about how the government, the world, the school, the friends, the people, and unfortunately the parents are brainwashing their children to become exactly what they are. And if there's one thing as parents we don't like is seeing ourselves in our children. That didn't hurt is a cry from that child saying, actually the opposite, it really did hurt. But I'm not going to let you know it because I want you to hurt. And how many times are we hurting inside from things that have never been resolved as children? Things that our spouse has said, but we are so avoidant in not wanting a confrontation to resolve things because of the fear of the instability and the unknown of that confrontation. And by the way, confrontation is not a word that has to always mean something negative. There is good confrontation. Coming to the table and sharing your feelings. Most families, most husbands and wives and children, they don't know how to share their feelings because now we're into the computer age and everything's on text, which I also deal with in the book. So the pain inside is packaged when we marry, is packaged when we produce children, seed after its kind, and we unpackage it as we go through the trials and tribulations and hurts of life. And our own pain keeps us from becoming the beautiful person God wanted us to be. A huge prison that most of us live in is within our minds. And we produce it in behavior and emotions. We have no idea the power of words. One word, and you know this if you think about it, can change your whole life. For example, if you go to the doctor because you've got a pain in your stomach and you've tried different prescriptions and it hasn't gone away, and the doctor says to you after extensive diagnostic work, he calls you in and unexpectedly tells you that you have cancer. The word cancer, does that word have the power to suddenly change your life? Yes. Now think about it with me for a moment. Take the word cancer out of the medical context and take it over to a foreign country who doesn't use that word, and that word cancer will not alter the emotions or mood, and they'll look at you like, what is that? But that one word has been given a connotation in this country of death, hopelessness, pain, suffering. So the power of words and our perception of what they mean has the power to change lives, steal hope, bring joy, produce anger, enrage. I can't go any further on that. It would take too long. So when we say that didn't hurt, you don't have to say it like a child. We say it in avoidant behavior. When the husband's busy doing everything, fishing, boating, motorcycling, and we're at home with no relationship with our spouse, but instead of sitting them down and saying, we've got to work on this, we stuff it and suppress it inside, and it begins to deteriorate our physical well-being. Our organs begin to fail. Rashes become apparent. Emotional instability creeps in. Spiritual degradation, and we begin to self-destruct. Because our perception is that if I talk to my husband or wife about the things that are hurting me in this relationship, if I talk to my boyfriend, if I talk to the pastor, if I talk to my parents, it's going to hurt me in the long run. So therefore, I'm going to avoid it. And we become extremely avoidant. And the hamster wheel continues. And the frantic pace of life, as we call it. And we don't want to stop because there is this huge little word called denial that says, I don't want to deal with this because I am afraid of the truth. What if my husband wants a divorce? What if I don't want to hear what my children are doing if I really ask them? So we go along and we pretend everything is fine until we find ourselves sitting in the juvenile detention center waiting to see our children. Or we're sitting by a hospital bed by one of our children that was found to be sexually abused over a period of time, but we didn't know it because we were so busy. The child tried to tell us and we shoved it aside. Or in our own case, we have been abused and hurt as children and been raised perhaps under perfectionist parents, and we're reproducing that into our life, and our life has become a living hell. But we do not want to hear it. We are, in essence, the adult child standing there in defiance, saying, I'm going to put on these masks. This mask is my church mask. Everything's all right, praise God. This is my parent mask, taking care of the children and smiling even though the deep pain is killing me. And this is my spouse mask, which is probably, I'll serve you, I'll take care of the things we need to do, I'll go to work, honey, I'll do this and that. But let's not get intimate. Let's not talk about these things. And we wear all these masks, and we don't know who we are. Because we've never been allowed to have a relationship with God, with ourselves, with people, that says, you be who you really are. And if they have a problem with it, so be it. I'm not justifying wrong behavior here. I'm saying that most of us live to the expectation of our mothers, our father, our siblings, our husband, our wife, the pastor, the social worker, the boss, the club, the bridge club leader. We dance to the tune of everyone else until we have become a chameleon and we change colors with our environment. We really don't know who we are. As I said earlier, Programming a Child to Self-Destruct was written out of my own life, working with the state of Florida with child abuse and neglect, becoming a trauma specialist. And by the way, if you happen in some of the videos to see, like behind me here, the little stuffed animals, I work with children also. And I remember a little child was brought to me when I was in private practice, and the child went and hid under the desk. And the grandparent, who the parent was a drug addict, said to me, he's out of control. And when I went there and stooped under the desk, a growl came out of him like an animal. This child had gone so far into himself from the pain and trauma of his environment that he no longer was in touch with reality. He didn't want to be in touch with reality. Let me ask you, if by chance, is that where you are today? Are you just running the hamster wheel? You just fear stopping and seeing the truth? Are you standing there as an adult with your little inner child looking defiant, saying, it didn't hurt? That didn't hurt. And the tears of our heart are breaking, rolling down, flooding. But we dare not let anyone see it. We avoid, we suppress, or we might get anger and have a rage. But none of it resolves the deep hurt and need we have to belong, to be understood, and to be valued and loved. And that doesn't come just because you want it to. It takes work, even for the best of us. So let me encourage you, go ahead and get the book. Write me. It's not every day we can talk to writers of books and say, I've got questions, but that's what we built the website Global Trauma Services for. So that you could read things, listen to me, and send information. I have my private email. We're getting responses here saying, why do you say this? Where's this in the Bible? Why would you make that statement? This book could change the way your whole family is self-destructive. At Amazon. Is your inner child standing up? Are you wearing all the masks and saying to your husband, to your wife, to your family, to your parents, to the world, that doesn't hurt me. I'm tough. But inside, you just want to be cared for, loved, and important. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to share. These things don't just go away. And the nice thing about the highway of the internet is I don't have to know you. You don't have to really know me. Turn of a button and we're disconnected. But you can talk. You can share. We have Skype, which I work all over the world with. Germany, Russia, Spain, different areas of the world. We can resolve issues without you moving out of your living room or your kitchen. But you have to take that first step and overcome denial, the fears that hold you in bondage, the self-hate that you have for yourself can be released. Or you can continue the cycle through life, send off your children as the Genesis seeds to reproduce of its own kind. And let me ask you, do you want your children to become what you and your spouse has demonstrated is a family? Is that what you want them to produce? Do you want them to produce the relationship they've seen with you? How do you reach that child who's defiant, who would rather be with a gang member, who would rather snort drugs, would rather immerse themselves in pot? What is it they're saying to you? Drug rehabs are not going to make the difference, folks. Getting down inside and finding the source, letting them know you really care, having the tools to help them is what will make the difference. And if you are an adult who emerged out of that setting, as I did and as millions have, it's not too late. But what you'll have to do is you're going to have to step out of denial, take off your mask, and learn who you really are, and discover the beautiful person that God meant you to be.